Welcome to Military. Where we uncover the extraordinary stories that shaped our nation. Today, we're diving into a tale so remarkable that it reads like fiction, yet every word is true. Picture this. A young man barely old enough to vote stands at the crossroads of history, about to make a decision that will echo through the centuries and help forge the very foundation of America. This is the story of the spy who built America. Not with bricks and mortar, not with grand speeches or famous battles, but with courage so pure and sacrifice so complete that it would inspire a nation for generations to come. His name was Nathan Hale, and at just 21 years old, he would become America's first spy and our most enduring symbol of patriotic devotion. But here's what makes this story truly incredible. Nathan wasn't a hardened soldier or a professional intelligence operative. He was a schoolteacher, a young man who could have lived a comfortable, quiet life, educating children in colonial Connecticut. Instead, he chose to walk into the most dangerous mission imaginable during America's darkest hour. And what he accomplished in death would prove far more powerful than anything he could have achieved in life. The year was 1776, and America was quite literally fighting for its survival. George Washington's Continental Army had just suffered a crushing defeat at the Battle of Long Island. British forces controlled New York City, the strategic heart of the colonies. The situation was so desperate that many began questioning whether this rebellion against the world's most powerful empire could possibly succeed. But it was in this moment of despair that one young man would step forward and change everything. Nathan Hale was born into the kind of New England family that embodied everything admirable about colonial American society. His father, Richard Hale, was a prosperous farmer and church deacon who had raised 12 children with an unwavering commitment to moral duty and community service. The Hale family was known throughout their Connecticut community for their integrity, hard work, and principled values. When Nathan's mother Elizabeth died while he was still young, her influence continued to shape his character in profound ways. She had taught him that education was the key to serving others, and that knowledge carried with it the responsibility to use that knowledge for the greater good. Standing over 6 feet tall in an era when most men barely reached 5.5 feet, Nathan commanded attention wherever he went. But it wasn't just his impressive height that made him remarkable. His classmates at Yale College remembered him as perhaps the most athletically gifted student they had ever encountered. He could kick a football clear over the college chapel, leap across streams that defeated other students, and defeat much larger opponents in wrestling matches through sheer skill and determination. Yet despite these extraordinary physical gifts, Nathan was known primarily for his character. At Yale, he studied under President Thomas Clapp, a strict minister who demanded both intellectual excellence and moral uprightness from his students. The curriculum was rigorous, covering Latin, Greek, mathematics, natural philosophy, and theology. Nathan excelled in every subject, graduating with honors in 1773. More importantly, he graduated with a reputation for absolute integrity that would follow him throughout his brief but remarkable life. After graduation, Nathan returned to Connecticut to begin his teaching career. Unlike many educators of his era, who relied heavily on physical punishment to maintain discipline, Nathan believed in inspiring students through encouragement and intellectual challenge. He organized spelling competitions, encouraged creative writing, and even established one of America's first school libraries. His students absolutely adored him. Years later, many would recall how Mr. Hale made learning exciting and relevant to their lives. Nathan was also a natural leader in his community. He organized social events, helped establish a debating society, and was instrumental in founding a literary club that discussed the great books and ideas of the age. His fellow citizens looked to him as someone whose judgment and character could be trusted completely. When he wasn't teaching, Nathan could often be found reading in his small apartment above the schoolhouse, devouring books on history, philosophy, and politics, trying to understand the great forces shaping his world. Nathan's personal life was equally promising. He was engaged to Alice Adams, a young woman from a respectable New London family. Their wedding was planned for the summer of 1776, and Nathan had already begun making preparations for their life together. He had been offered a position at a prestigious academy that would have provided financial security and social status for their future family. Then came April 19th, 1775, and the shots heard round the world at Lexington and Concord. News of these battles reached Connecticut within days, carried by riders who brought breathless accounts of British soldiers firing on American militia. The long simmering conflict between Britain and her American colonies had finally erupted into open warfare. For Nathan Hale, this news meant facing the most difficult decision of his young life. He could continue his comfortable career as a respected teacher, marry Alice, and build a peaceful life in Connecticut, or he could answer his country's call to arms and risk everything he held dear for an uncertain cause. For someone of Nathan's character and convictions, there was really no choice at all. On July 1st, 1775, Nathan Hale was commissioned as a first lieutenant in Colonel Charles Webb's Connecticut regiment. He left behind his teaching position, postponed his wedding indefinitely, and prepared for military service. His decision caused considerable anguish for Alice and his family, but they understood that Nathan's sense of duty left him no alternative. Military life suited Nathan remarkably well. His natural leadership ability, combined with his education and moral authority, quickly earned him the respect of both officers and enlisted men. Within months of joining the Continental Army, he was promoted to captain in recognition of his leadership skills and the high morale of his company. Nathan's soldiers genuinely loved serving under him. Unlike many officers who maintained strict social distance from their men, Nathan took a personal interest in each soldier's welfare. He shared their hardships, looked after their needs, and never asked them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. When supplies were short, Nathan often gave up his own rations to feed hungry soldiers. When the weather was harsh, he made sure his men had adequate shelter before seeking comfort for himself. During the siege of Boston, Captain Hale distinguished himself in several dangerous missions. He volunteered for nighttime reconnaissance patrols into enemy territory, led successful raids on British outposts, and maintained discipline and morale among his troops, even during the most discouraging periods. Other officers noted his unusual combination of physical courage and moral authority, along with his ability to remain calm and think clearly under fire. But the greatest test of Nathan's courage and character was yet to come, as the British assembled the largest expeditionary force in their history to crush the American rebellion once and for all. George Washington found himself facing an impossible situation. He was fighting blind, with virtually no reliable intelligence about British troop movements, battle plans, or fortifications. What happened next would transform a young schoolteacher into America's most famous spy and create a legacy that would inspire patriots for centuries to come. If you're finding this incredible story of courage and sacrifice as compelling as we do, smash that like button and let us know in the comments which part of Nathan Hale's story resonates most with you. And make sure to subscribe to Military Hmmm for more amazing stories of the ordinary Americans who did extraordinary things to build our nation. Our nation. The call came during a meeting of regimental officers at Washington's headquarters in Manhattan. Colonel Thomas Knowlton, commander of an elite scouting unit known as Knowlton's Rangers, stood before a room of seasoned military men and delivered one of the most chilling briefings of the war. Someone needed to cross into British-controlled territory, assume a civilian identity, gather critical intelligence about enemy positions and plans, then return with information that could save the Continental Army. The mission was voluntary. It was extremely dangerous, and it was quite possibly suicidal. Anyone caught would face immediate execution as a spy. There would be no trial, no opportunity for prisoner exchange, no hope of rescue. Moreover, in the honor-bound culture of 18th century military service, espionage was considered dishonorable work beneath the dignity of a gentleman officer. Real soldiers fought their enemies face to face with weapons drawn, not skulking in shadows with lies and deception. The room fell silent as officers contemplated the implications. Several younger officers, inspired by patriotic fervor or personal ambition, slowly raised their hands to volunteer. Among them was Captain Nathan Hale. When Colonel Knowlton asked each volunteer to explain his motivation, Nathan's response was characteristically direct and unwavering. He wished to serve his country in whatever capacity she required, whether that be in open battle or in more secret service. His duty was to America, not to his own reputation or comfort. Over the following days, the harsh reality of the mission caused most volunteers to reconsider. The near certainty of death, combined with the social stigma attached to espionage, proved too daunting for most, but Nathan Hale remained steadfast in his commitment. When friends attempted to dissuade him, he responded with quiet determination that this was what his country needed, and he would not shirk his duty. Captain William Hull, one of Nathan's closest friends in the Army, made a passionate final attempt to change his mind. Who respects the character of a spy, Hull argued, assuming the garb of friendship only to betray? The soldier's life is honorable because he faces his enemy openly with weapons in hand. But a spy must live a lie, deceive those who trust him, and die a dishonored death if captured. Nathan listened respectfully to his friend's arguments, then replied with words that revealed the depth of his commitment. He believed the propriety of any action could be determined from the objective to be attained and the means necessary to accomplish it. If accomplishing something important to the welfare of his country required exposing himself to danger and perhaps to death, he was ready to do it. Every duty necessary for the security of their nation was honorable, regardless of the personal cost. Hull continued his efforts, pointing out that Nathan had everything to live for: a promising career, a loving fiancé, the respect of his community. Why throw all of this away on a mission that would almost certainly end in death? Nathan's response was simple but profound. A man's greatest possession is his life, but a life spent entirely in self-service is hardly worth preserving. He would rather die in service to a noble cause than live a long life devoted only to his own comfort. The mission was scheduled for September 10th, 1776. Nathan spent his final days in camp writing letters to family and friends, settling his personal affairs, and preparing for what he understood might be his final assignment. He wrote to his father, expressing gratitude for his upbringing and asking forgiveness for any pain his death might cause the family. He wrote to Alice, releasing her from their engagement and urging her to find happiness with someone else if he did not return. These letters revealed a man completely at peace with his decision, someone who had carefully considered the costs and accepted them willingly. On the evening of September 9th, Nathan made his final preparations. He exchanged his Continental Army uniform for the plain brown suit of a Dutch schoolmaster, complete with worn shoes and simple accessories that would support his cover identity. His story was carefully crafted but believable. He was an educated man from New York seeking employment in British-controlled territory. Nathan's Yale education made this cover particularly credible. He could speak knowledgeably about classical literature, educational methods, and contemporary scholarly debates. His mannerisms and vocabulary marked him as a gentleman, someone who would naturally seek employment as a private tutor in a wealthy Loyalist household. The crossing was made in a small boat under cover of darkness. Nathan was ferried across Long Island Sound by Sergeant Stephen Hempstead, a trusted soldier who would wait on the Connecticut shore for his return. As they approached the enemy-controlled coastline, both men understood they might never see each other again. Landing on Huntington Bay in the early hours of September 10th, Nathan Hale stepped onto enemy territory and began what would become the most famous espionage mission in American history. For the next 11 days, he would move through British-controlled Long Island and Manhattan, gathering intelligence that could have changed the course of the Revolutionary War. The British occupation had transformed bustling colonial New York into a massive military encampment. Red-coated soldiers patrolled every street corner, their bayonets gleaming in the autumn sunlight. Naval vessels crowded the harbor so thickly that a person could almost walk from ship to ship across the water. Loyalist civilians worked closely with military authorities to maintain security, reporting any suspicious activity to British commanders. For Nathan, moving through this environment required exceptional skill and constant vigilance. One careless word, one suspicious action, one moment of inattention could mean immediate capture and certain death. But Nathan proved remarkably adept at his dangerous new role. His cover as a Dutch schoolmaster seeking employment held up under casual scrutiny from British patrols and suspicious civilians. During his 11 days behind enemy lines, Nathan methodically gathered the intelligence Washington desperately needed. He sketched British fortifications, carefully noting artillery positions, wall thickness, and vulnerable points. He counted troop numbers, identified regiment locations, and estimated combat effectiveness. He observed the massive British fleet, documenting ship types and defensive arrangements. He noted supply routes, communication systems, and British morale. Most importantly, he learned details about British plans for future operations against Washington's forces. General Howe was planning a coordinated assault involving both Army and Navy units that would trap American forces on Manhattan and force their surrender. This intelligence, if delivered to Washington, could have allowed the Continental Army to prepare effective countermeasures. But Nathan's luck was about to run out in the most devastating way possible. Don't forget to hit that like button if this incredible story of American courage is keeping you on the edge of your seat, and drop a comment telling us what you think about Nathan's impossible decision to risk everything for his country. Make sure to subscribe to Military and ring that notification bell so you never miss these amazing stories of the heroes who built America. On September 21, 1776, Nathan Hale's remarkable mission came to a tragic end when he was captured by British forces. The exact circumstances remain debated by historians, but the result was devastating. Found with incriminating documents hidden in his shoes, Nathan faced immediate execution without trial. When offered the chance to save his life by becoming a double agent, he refused without hesitation. At the gallows the next morning, this 21-year-old schoolteacher faced death with extraordinary dignity. His final words would echo through American history: "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." With those immortal words, Nathan Hale became more than America's first spy. He became our first martyr, proof that the cause of freedom was worth any sacrifice. Though Nathan never lived to see American independence achieved, his courage inspired countless others to continue the fight. His story reminds us that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things when they're willing to serve something greater than themselves. From a small Connecticut classroom to the gallows in Manhattan, Nathan Hale showed us what it truly means to love your country. His legacy lives on today, not in monuments or memorials, but in the enduring American spirit of service and sacrifice. Nathan Hale didn't just spy for America through his courage and ultimate sacrifice. He helped build the very foundation of American patriotism that continues to inspire us today.